Hearts can be close, but wallets must stay apart. In a small town outside Denver, 45-year-old engineer David Turner often pondered how something as simple as money could be so emotionally complex. To him, money was just a tool. Paper, digits, a medium of exchange. It had no feelings. But once it passed between people, especially family, it suddenly became more than a number. His grandfather, who ran a hardware store in Kansas City, once told him, "People are close, but money should never be." Back then, David brushed it off. Why wouldn't you share with the people you love most? But after a lifetime of witnessing strained relationships over unclear finances, he finally understood. Relationships run on emotions: generosity, empathy, loyalty. Money runs on systems: accountability, clarity, numbers. When you treat money emotionally, or relationships like transactions, everything starts to collapse. The two follow entirely different rules, and forcing them to operate the same way is like trying to run two trains on the same track. Sooner or later, there's a crash. David had once lent $15,000 to his cousin Sean, who was starting a landscaping company. No contract, no expectations, just trust. But 6 months later, Sean stopped returning calls. On social media, he posted about vacations and new gear, not a word about repayment. It wasn't the money that hurt David. It was the erosion of trust. What started as a generous gesture turned into silent resentment. Their once close bond became awkward, strained, and eventually non-existent. David realized that when emotions guide money decisions, the heart often pays the price. Love needs no receipts, but debt always does. The silent debt between sisters. In Portland, Oregon, 38-year-old HR manager Olivia Nguyen received a late-night call from her younger sister, Lena. She was in tears. "Liv, I made a mistake with a business partner. I need $30,000 or I'll lose everything." Without hesitation, Olivia transferred the money. No contracts, no terms, just love. Weeks passed, then months. Lena never mentioned the loan again. During family dinners, she laughed like nothing had happened. Olivia stayed quiet, but each time she saw Lena's new purchases, a smartwatch, a high-end handbag, her stomach turned. Should she ask? Would that make her seem greedy? Every time she bit her tongue, it left a scar. Lena, on the other hand, had rewritten the story in her head. "Olivia makes 6 figures," she told herself. "She won't miss it. Besides, I'm her sister." That twisted logic grew over time. By the time Olivia finally brought up the money, Lena was offended. "Wow, so now you're keeping tabs? I thought we were family." A heated argument followed. Everything exploded over a holiday dinner. Years of unspoken resentment poured out in front of stunned relatives. Their once intimate sisterhood fractured beyond repair. All because no one dared to draw the line. Said from the start, "Of course I'll help, but let's put it in writing to protect our bond." Everything might have been different. The pain wasn't in the loan, it was in the silence, in the assumption, in the eroded trust. The price of clarity. In Austin, Texas, twin brothers, Daniel and Chris Bennett, both in their early 40s, had always shared everything, from childhood bedrooms to weekend hobbies. So, when Chris decided to launch a digital marketing agency, it felt natural to turn to his brother for help. "I need a loan to get this started," Chris said. "About $40,000. I'll pay you back when the business takes off." Daniel, a software engineer with steady income, paused before answering. He had been burned before by lending money informally, even to friends, so this time he did something different. "I'll help you, Chris, but let's draw up a formal agreement," Daniel said. "We'll outline when and how you'll repay me. I'd also like to include a modest interest rate. Nothing heavy, just enough to reflect the value of the money over time." Chris frowned. "Seriously? We're brothers." Daniel smiled. "Exactly, and I want us to stay that way." Though hesitant, Chris agreed. They signed a contract with clear repayment terms and a 3% annual interest rate. To Daniel, it wasn't about profit, it was about accountability and protecting their relationship. As the months passed, the business grew. Chris was more careful with spending, knowing every dollar had a name and a cost. He stayed focused, repaid on time, and never let the loan slip into the background. Daniel, on the other hand, slept well. He didn't worry about bringing up money. Their conversations remained about life, not debts. The contract had removed emotional tension before it could even form. What surprised both brothers was how the agreement made them feel closer, not more distant. The structure gave freedom from resentment, guilt, and uncertainty. Daniel later reflected on how so many people believed that talking about money ruined relationships. But in truth, not talking about it was what really did the damage. Expectations without clarity were like landmines in a field of good intentions. He realized that formalizing financial help wasn't a sign of mistrust. It was a sign of maturity and respect. Family and business on separate tracks. In Sacramento, California, Brandon and Alex Morales, cousins and childhood best friends, decided to start a home renovation company. Brandon had experience in construction, Alex knew sales. Together, they believed they were unstoppable. For the first 6 months, everything was great. Clients were happy, money was coming in, but beneath the surface, cracks were forming. Who made the final decisions? Who controlled hiring? Should profits be split evenly if one worked longer hours? Because they were family, they never put anything in writing. They thought paperwork would kill the vibe. When Brandon hired his brother-in-law without consulting Alex, tensions flared. Then, Alex brought in a high school friend who didn't show up on time. Before long, their office was filled with underqualified relatives. Productivity dropped, and so did profits. Resentment grew. During one job site dispute, Alex shouted, "This isn't a family picnic, this is a business." Brandon replied, "Then why did we start it like a family barbecue?" Eventually, they stopped talking. The business failed. At Thanksgiving that year, they sat at opposite ends of the table in silence. Looking back, both wished they had acted like business partners from day one. Clear job roles, equity shares, decision rights, and even an exit plan could have saved the company and their relationship. What they lacked wasn't love, it was structure. They confused family loyalty with professional responsibility, and in doing so, they lost both. Business needed one set of rules. Family needed another. Merging the two without boundaries was like mixing oil and water. They never truly blended. Boundaries built from love. In Phoenix, Arizona, Michelle Carter, a 47-year-old elementary school teacher, had always been the pillar of her extended family. Kind, dependable, and generous, she was the one everyone called when things went wrong. Her younger brother, Tyler, now 33, had bounced between jobs for years. Musician one month, delivery driver the next, unemployed the month after. Every few weeks, Michelle would receive a familiar text. "Hey, sis, can you help me out with rent again? I'll pay you back soon." Michelle had 2 kids in college, an aging mother who needed medical care, and a mortgage of her own. But every time she heard Tyler's voice crack with frustration or desperation, her heart softened. And so, she sent the money, again and again. Until one day, after yet another $1,000 transfer, Michelle saw a photo of Tyler at a weekend concert in Vegas, holding a drink and grinning. That was her wake-up call. She wasn't helping him. She was enabling him. And worse, the more she gave, the more entitled he became. Tyler had stopped seeing her support as kindness and started treating it like obligation. When she finally said no, Tyler snapped, "You're not there for me anymore. What's the point of being family if I can't count on you?" Michelle's heart broke, not because of his words, but because they were rooted in a relationship that had quietly become toxic. She began setting firm boundaries. "I love you," she told Tyler, "and I'll always be there if you have a real emergency, but I won't keep bailing you out of the consequences of your choices." She started requiring written agreements for any future loans. If a friend asked for money, she'd calmly suggest signing a promissory note with a clear deadline. If they refused, she took that as a sign of deeper issues. "It's not about mistrust," she'd explain. It's about preserving respect and clarity so we don't destroy a friendship over misunderstandings. Michelle also realized that real love sometimes meant saying no, not out of coldness, but out of responsibility, to herself, to her own children, and even to Tyler. Coddling him didn't make him stronger. It made him dependent and bitter. As she drew those lines, something surprising happened. Her relationships improved. The ones built on respect remained strong. The ones built on guilt or obligation quietly faded away, and she was okay with that. She came to believe something deeply, that money, when handled without structure, could poison the very connections it was meant to support. But when handled with clarity, it could actually protect and preserve them. Her grandfather once told her, "Problems that money can solve are small problems, but if money ruins relationships, that's a problem you might never fix." Michelle finally understood the wisdom in those words. She didn't stop being generous, but she started being wise. And in doing so, she safeguarded the most important thing, the trust and harmony within her family.